I'm Michaela Scurlock, and you're watching A Pro-Wife Story. Today I get to spend time with Michelle Crawford. Michelle is the wife of former Carolina Panther Casey Crawford. Stay with us to see how this super couple turns dreams into realities.
You know, I remember being in law school and people saying, well, why are you in school? Your husband's in the NFL. For both Casey and I, we said, like, too ambitious. We're just both kind of cut that way and both kind of had things we wanted to do. We're always trying to be mindful of the impact you're having on the world around you and just trying to walk that path and live that way.
Michaela Scurlock presents A Pro-Wife Story, featuring Michelle Crawford.
All right, I want to start out talking a little bit about college. Where did you go to college and what did you study?
I went to the University of Virginia and I was an English major there.
An English major, okay. Did you have any aspirations of what you want to do with that?
Yeah, I went to school thinking I want to be a journalist. And I was actually being interviewed for like a local story because I played field hockey there. And I ended up talking to the journalist afterwards and she was like, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, oh, I want to be a journalist. And she's like, don't be a journalist. It's a terrible job, like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. So I went to law school instead. So it kind of derailed me.
Yeah, let's talk about, first of all, you were an athlete.
Yes.
And you mentioned field hockey. And I'm quite confident that I probably have never met a field hockey player before.
Probably true.
Needless to say, a woman, because when I think of hockey, you know, I think ice.
Yeah.
I think fights.
Okay.
Missing teeth, blood. I don't know. So tell me a little bit about field hockey.
So I grew up in New Jersey, and field hockey is a really big sport in the Northeast and in pockets around the country, California, Texas, and it's growing a lot, and now it's really growing a lot here in the South. But you know, a million years ago, it was probably the biggest female sport around. It was bigger than soccer. It was bigger than softball, volleyball, basketball. At least where I grew up. So grew up playing that, and then got a scholarship to UVA.
Wow.
And field hockey is played with a ball and a stick on turf. So no ice and no puck.
Yeah.
And not a lot of fights.
Yeah, that's good. When you told me, I think in the past, that you had played field hockey, I have to admit, I looked it up on online, and I found a picture, and I noticed that the stick almost looks like a candy cane.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a curved toe, and it's sort of developed a little bit over the years, but yeah, when I grew up, it was a wooden stick, and now there's all different kinds, but curved toe, you can only use one side of it. You have to turn it over to dribble the ball, so it's not like an ice hockey stick.
Very impressive, very impressive. So now, did you meet Casey in college, or where did you guys meet?
Yeah, we both were the same year at UVA, and he played football and baseball, and I was playing field hockey, so we were just in the same kind of friend group and stuff like that, and then very conveniently, we both happened to be injured at the same time. We both had like sprained ankles, and so we were like in the little ice whirlpool together, the training room because all the athletes share the same training room.
And just so people know, not the same pool.
No, right? No, I mean, we both had our ankle in the same little,
right.
This wasn't like a romantic pool. This was a freezing cold tub. And I think we both kind of like pushed the injury out a little bit longer so we could kind of keep chatting before practice and just got to be good friends, and then eventually started dating probably, I think, our end of our sophomore year, beginning of our junior year.
So then you guys dated throughout college. And then at what time did you know that he was the one?
Oh, he knew sooner, he claims, but no.
It's funny, I hear this all the time. It's usually always he. I talked to someone else and they said that too.
Pretty early. I mean, I remember telling my mom, like, all right, this is the guy I'm going to marry. And I definitely was not a person that was like, I'm going to go to college and get married right away. I had all these, things I wanted to do, but yeah, I don't think you really know when you know you're going to meet the right person. And we both kind of felt the same way. So we got engaged right after college and got married that summer after we graduated.
So let me ask you this question now. Did you at any time know that he had a chance to play in the NFL?
So that's a great question. His sophomore, junior year, I can't remember exactly, but he fractured his ankle horribly. And at that time, he was kind of one of the top 10, he was a tight end. He was one of the top tight ends in the country. And stuff was going well, and he was, rated X to go in X round in the draft and everything like that. But then he had a pretty significant injury there. He rehabbed it. He took that year off. He came back. He had a really good year subsequent to the injury, but then he got hurt again. He cracked his pelvis. So he had two kind of major injuries coming out of college. So by the time we graduated, he's like, I'm done with football. So, when we got engaged, that football wasn't really on the horizon for him.
So He wasn't thinking about football
Nope,
anymore.
he was done. He took
And
a job with
you-
an internet startup.
And you were going to go to law school, but
So I was, because I played field hockey, so I
Yeah.
played on our U.S. team, and it was end of 1999, beginning of 2000, so 2000 is an Olympic year. And so I had made the 2000 Olympic field hockey team, so I was in California training with the team, and he was in Virginia working, and we were engaged, and our plan was I was going to play in the Olympics, and then we were going to get married. And then, very long story, unfortunately, I made the team, but then our team didn't qualify. You have to go through a qualification. So then I came home, and he decided to announce to me, hey, I think I want to play football. And so I was already in law school. It was
and
kinda
that's
crazy.
interesting because you were, I guess, okay with where you're going to be in the future, with him not playing
Oh, yeah.
football and
Yeah,
all that,
absolutely.
obviously. But you had in your mind thought you were going to be in the Olympics, which is a huge deal. I mean, again, I don't think I've met an Olympian, maybe, but I don't recall off the top of my head. And so now you work hard, you make the team, but you don't get to go.
Right.
And now Casey says he wants to play. So
Yeah, it was a pretty big shift in what we were both
Yeah.
doing at the time. We were both, I think, 20, had just turned 22. Thought we knew, everything, and I'm very much a planner. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do
Yeah.
this, and then I'm gonna go to law school. And you're working at this job, and I was gonna go to law school. I've been accepted at George Washington University in D.C., and he was working in D.C. But then he just kind of had been talking with friends and was kind of starting to work out again a little bit and was feeling good. And he just was like, I feel like I need to give this a shot. And he got an agent, and he started working out again and entered the draft. And I was like, all right, go for it. I think we were young enough and dumb enough to just
Yeah.
ride these different, yeah, we can do anything, whatever.
And then you had your wedding already scheduled.
Wedding
right?
already scheduled for
Yeah.
July, yep. And I was already in school, and then he signed with the Panthers. He didn't get drafted,
Yeah.
and the Panthers picked him up. Neither of us had ever been to Charlotte in our
Yeah.
lives, and the Panthers were a young team
Yeah.
at the time. I think they were only a few years old.
Well, let's talk about that. We have to take
Okay.
a quick break, but
Okay.
let's talk about a little bit about your wedding and your honeymoon before we go to the actual
good.
draft. We'll be right back with Michelle.
More with Michaela and Michelle Crawford when a pro-wife story returns. A pro-wife story continues with Michaela and Michelle Crawford.
All right, Michelle. So before the break, we talked about you guys got married in July, correct? And
Correct.
so you didn't have much time before he had to leave for training camp because you said he didn't get drafted, but he still signed with the team.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
signed with the team, so he essentially had to make the team, and I think he was the 5th tight end on the depth chart
Yeah.
at the time.
And just for those watching who don't know what that means, so there's a
That
draft.
means there are 4 people in front of him.
Right,
for
that
that
is
job,
true.
yes.
That is true. But when you don't get drafted, there's a free agency,
Yes.
so you still get on with a team.
Correct.
But you have to work like
A
really
little extra hard to kind of
Yeah.
earn your spot, yeah.
Right.
A little less feeling of a guarantee.
So he was scheduled to leave for training camp, and then, but before that, you guys got married. How much time was there in between?
If I remember correctly, it was a long time ago. I think we had like 6 days between. We got married July 8th. I do remember that, and I think you had to report on like the 14th or
glad
the
to
15th.
remember that, by
I
the
know
way.
when I got
I'm
married.
glad
We
you
got
do.
married in 2000, so it's very easy
Right.
to remember our year. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we had a short little quick honeymoon.
So your honeymoon, did you
Oh.
did you get to splurge? Because I'm thinking, now he's in the NFL. I mean, he's signed.
No, we did not splurge.
Yeah.
We drove his little pickup truck filled with all of our wedding gifts because we were just like, I was moving out of my parents' house, he was moving out of his, and all our stuff and like my sweaters and just everything we owned in the back of his pickup truck down to Myrtle Beach. And we just like pulled into the hotel, and we realized as we're like checking in, like we have all of our stuff in the back of his car open. It's everything we own. So we literally brought in like our china and our crystal and his mom's teapot and everything we
Right.
owned into this, and we're like
They probably thought you were moving
dying
in.
laughing the entire time of what
Right.
idiots we look like. But we did that, and we hung out on the beach. But like he had to train and work out, and I was in the best shape of my life because I just came off of the Olympic year. So we did a lot of sprints on the beach. We did a lot of
Yeah.
push-ups. We did a lot of running just to get him. He's like, I just need to be in the best shape I can be in. We spent a few days in Myrtle Beach. We went to dinner. His credit card got declined. We thought we'd have to
Wait,
wash
wait,
the
wait,
dishes.
hold on.
I mean, it was
Credit
not the
card got
most-
declined.
So like we were still kids. Like
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I don't think he had made any money yet. Like maybe he had
Yeah.
a very small signing bonus. We were both right out of college. We were
Yeah.
both college athletes, so none of us had jobs. Our jobs were playing sports. So we were literally like, I think, I had $30, he had whatever, and I think he had his
Yeah.
parents' credit card. And so we got to dinner and it got declined. And, you know, and the nice waiter was trying to be discreet about it. And I was like, well, do we need to wash the dishes? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we like scrounged
Did you really ask
up.
that question?
Oh, yeah.
Because,
I
you know,
mean,
you see that in the movies. And
right. Well, it
I've
felt
never
like that.
really,
And we were just kind of like, whatever. You know, we had no expectation
Yeah.
of this, like, grandiose anything. It was just, we knew we wanted to be married, and we knew it was going to be kind of crazy in the beginning because of all the different stuff we had been through. But somehow I think we found some money, paid for dinner, had a good honeymoon, and then came back to actually, we were living in Davidson, North Carolina at the time, and he left for training camp in Spartanburg.
So he leaves for training camp, and you are now enrolled in law school, right?
Yeah,
and
law
you
school was
went to
starting.
where?
Wake Forest, up in Winston-Salem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you commuted.
So we lived in Davidson somewhat strategically, so I could drive an hour up to school every day, and he could drive like a half an hour into the city to go to, you know, go to practice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would think was that tough to juggle? Because, you know, you have to adjust to the NFL. I mean, that's a big adjustment for him. And then you, as his wife, you know, having to adjust to being married, having to adjust to him being in the NFL, but then also law school, that's very ambitious. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think, again, like I said before, like we were dumb enough to not realize like everything we're kind of taking on, and it was just like, all right, this is what we're doing now. And I was, you know, driving up to school every day, go to class. I was helping coach their field hockey team. So it was a long day for me and get home, and then it was obviously a long day for him trying to make the team, and thankfully he did. But then just the week in, week out of being on an NFL team and all that stuff, and year one and being married and living on our own, and we knew nobody. You know,
and the more I talk to you, the more I'm sitting here going like, okay, not only is she like super athletic, but she's also must be super smart because you're in law school. I'm starting to get intimidated, and I'm like, well, you know. So, but that said, what kept you so motivated? Because a lot of people, you know, I don't think would be as easily motivated as you were.
Yeah, it's kind of like, for both Casey and I, we say this, in some ways an Achilles heel, you know, like your best thing's always your worst thing. We're just both kind of cut that way, and very kind of probably too ambitious and motivated, and for sure at that time I was young, and I just kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't that, you know, I remember being in law school and people saying, well, why are you in school? Your husband's in the NFL. And I was like, well, wait, he's 1 year in the NFL, a few games into the NFL. And it was never like, well, you know, he's going to do that, but I'm not going to just rely on him to either make money or do whatever. We both kind of had things we wanted to do, and he was super supportive of me doing, you know, being in law school, and likewise me, obviously, of him playing football. But it just kind of felt like we went to school together. We were both college athletes. We both had this ambition, and it wouldn't have made sense for one of us to just stop when we got married and stuff like that.
So how long did he play for the Panthers?
He played 2 full seasons for the Panthers.
And then did he play for any other team?
And then a year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what year was this? Was Tampa Bay?
So with the Panthers was 2000, 2001, and then the Bucs was the 2000 season. Yeah.
And wasn't it the year they went to the Super Bowl?
It is. It was a really good year to be on their team.
Yeah, that's a really good year.
So you got to go
many
to the Super
guys
Bowl.
who play for many years and never get to go. Right. So you got to go.
He went to the Super Bowl, got a Super Bowl ring.
Wow.
So that was what started as a bad experience because he, you know, got released from the Panthers. I guess right after training camp that year, and I was starting my last year in law school, and for anyone that happens to, it's always this kind of crazy transition in your life. But and he got picked up by the Bucs on their practice squad. So we were like, I was like, I don't know if I should move to Tampa. I'm in school, but I was also did not want to be away from him, and we were just like trying to figure it all out. So I kind of rearranged my classes where I would go to school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and fly to Tampa on Thursday nights and stay in Tampa till Monday morning, and then fly back. And then a few weeks into the season, he made the team outright and got a bunch of playing time and did great. And then they went to the Super Bowl. So it worked out.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
I mean, that's definitely a success story because, again, you know, a lot of people don't get to do that. So that's great. And you still managed to stay in law school, which I know is a beast for most who have ever even
Thankfully, it happened in my
someone.
third year, not my first year. So it was doable then.
Great. Well, we have to take another little break, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about the next transition that you guys went into.
Sounds good.
More with Michaela and Michelle Crawford when a Pro-Wife Story returns. A Pro-Wife Story continues with Michaela and Michelle Crawford.
Michelle, before the break, we talked about you guys were coming off this huge year. I mean, Super Bowl. That's just it's exciting. It's exciting for people watching, but it's exciting, of course, for you being there. Now, what happened next?
So, so it was 2003, and Casey had another year on his contract with the Bucks, but he just kind of decided he was done. He didn't have any particular injury or anything like that. He just wanted to be in control of his job, his income. He had enjoyed football, but he was like, I'm going off on a high. So he decided to retire, and I graduated from law school.
So wait a second, he dropped you, I guess, with these news. I mean, that's interesting because he came off his best year yet, right?
Yeah, and it didn't feel like dropped. I mean, we had just, the entire 3 years of his career in the NFL, it was an ongoing conversation of how much longer do I want to do this? Is this what is best for us? Case is a really talented guy and just had a lot of things he wanted to do. And he loved football, and he just felt like that part of his life, he was just ready to be done with it. So it didn't feel, I can see how it sounds like this, like, whoa, but it didn't feel like this bomb on our life. It was more like, all right, let's go to Tampa, let's see this year out, and then kind of reassess. So we kind of knew that was coming, regardless if the season was 0-16 or a Super Bowl championship. It was going to be a kind of let's reassess this. I was graduating school, so it was a natural kind of, okay, what are we going to do now? We're no longer tied to Carolina. We don't necessarily want to be tied to Tampa Bay. So,
how does that look when you decide you don't want to play anymore, and yet you have time on your contract left? Can you just walk away?
It was really clean. I mean, it was just kind of like, I'm out. I don't, again, because it was such a long time ago, I don't remember the specific details of his contract or, what those conversations were like necessarily, but I don't remember it being
But there were no fears.
laborious process. No, I mean,
no
he
fears
was
on
ready
your
to be
part
done.
either.
We had rented our apartment, I think, in Tampa, like month to month. We had rented furniture. It was like we're out. It was a clean getaway.
You graduate from law school.
Yeah.
Now you studying for a bar exam, right?
Yeah, so I had a job in Charlotte and studied for the bar exam, and we bought this house and moved from Davidson to Valentine area, and just kind of started phase 2 of our.
So you are an attorney, and Casey now, did he know right away what he wanted to do?
I think if he was being interviewed, he'd say yes, but it didn't seem like that at first. He, while I was in the NFL, he was very interested in real estate. He was learning about, flipping properties and that kind of stuff. He, in the off season, went to get his real estate license, so he knew he wanted to be involved in some way with real estate, but at the same time, he is this big hunter. And he also had a friend who was selling hunting equipment and tree stands, and so he kind of got involved with him and was helping him market and sell that kind of stuff. So he was just sort of like trying to figure out what was the next step. For the first 23-4 years of his life, he was an athlete and he was a football player, and it was like, okay, I need to reorient myself and figure out what I want to do. And luckily I had a good job, and so we were kind of.
And I have to get my brain wrapped around this, because you said he was selling hunting stands, right?
Yeah, I had to wrap my brain around it too.
I have heard a lot. I've heard a lot of things that guys, want to do after they retire from playing professional sports.
Right.
But that's probably the first time I've heard someone wanting to sell hunting stands.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing some like kind of local hunting shows. I remember he went to China to, talk to different manufacturing plants and the most effective, cost-effective way to make stuff. I mean, he did that for a while, but I think he knew he was ultimately going to do.
He's the kind of guy that I can visualize seeing on the show, Shark Tank.
Oh yeah,
totally. I can totally see him on that show.
Absolutely.
Pitching an idea.
Yeah, so. It was just too early. That show wasn't popular yet.
Yeah,
definitely.
Too bad. So now you, on the other side, were you convinced that what you were doing as an attorney is exactly where you wanted to be?
I think when anyone comes out of law school, medical school, you think like, I'm going to be like saving the world. And I had a really good job at a great firm, and I did insurance defense, and I liked it. It was like the first time in my life that I wasn't incredibly passionate about what I did. And it was very like not stressful. That sounds weird, but like working as an attorney.
No, it sounds completely, I understand. I think it's the people who have to see an attorney who are stressed.
It was
not the attorneys.
Stressful time of my life. I wasn't playing sports anymore, so I wasn't on that emotional roller coaster of competing. My husband wasn't playing sports anymore. We both just had jobs, and we didn't have kids yet, and so we would go to our jobs and then hang out. It was a really kind of peaceful time, honestly.
So how long then did he, I guess, sell the hunting stands before he started to explore something else?
He was always doing both. He was selling hunting equipment and kind of had his foot in the real estate industry. He was working with a friend, and he was just kind of educating himself and learning. I remember him reading a ton of books and just going to, going to a lot of different classes and just kind of trying to educate himself before the whole mortgage thing kind of started.
Okay, what whole mortgage thing?
Okay, so he now owns a really successful mortgage company.
And how did he get to that though?
That's a really complicated story. He just knew he wanted to work for him. He wanted to be an entrepreneur. He has that spirit. Both his mom and dad are entrepreneurs. He's just not a guy that likes to work for somebody else. And he'll tell you this, and he's on video and interview saying this. He Googled how to start a mortgage company. Literally.
Yeah, see, and that would be totally out of my comfort zone if I was his wife.
Me too. And
I'm like,
I'm very like, my dad worked for the government. My mom was a teacher. I was like, I want to know how much money we're going to make per year. He has a totally different mindset. He Googled it and he figured it out. He found partners. He found investors. He drove all over the country, drove up and down to Virginia Beach a million times, recruited. Just figured out the process from, when it started, he was IT, he was cleaning bathrooms, he was doing everything.
That's what it takes, right?
Yeah,
When you start a business,
he had a very small staff, and eventually it grew, but he figured it out. He knew nothing about it. He was a sociology major in college. He didn't have the, education necessarily to do that, but he
decided to, after selling hunting stands, to start
you
a more
stuck on those hunting stands.
Yeah, I am, because I can't get over those. But anyway,
I didn't even know what that was. Okay.
Yeah, I just recently learned. So he sold those, started a mortgage company by Googling how to start a mortgage company.
No joke. Yeah.
And the rest is history.
I guess you could say that.
A Pro-Wife Story continues right after this. A Pro-Wife Story continues with Michaela and Michelle Crawford.
So I'm not going to talk about tree stands anymore.
Put it to rest.
That's put it to rest. We're not going to talk about those. Although maybe we should say what tree stands are.
I cannot
right? It's like where you sit
It
high.
helps you climb the tree, and then it's where you sit and wait.
Right. So it's not where you put your Christmas tree in.
It is not.
Correct.
Yeah, that is
so
something
it's
different.
just for clarification for everyone watching, that's what it is. Okay, but that's it. We're going to put them to bed. Now, he started this mortgage company in the middle of, the housing market wasn't doing all that great, right?
It was around 2007, 2008, so not the most highly recommended time to start in the financial service industry, but
you were supportive.
Yeah, he's a really smart guy. He's a really hard worker, and it was kind of like, if this doesn't work, I know you can do something else.
Yeah.
It was still like, hey, we're fine financially.
Yeah.
Go for it. I trust you. Give it a shot.
Now, did you at that point already have kids, or?
Yeah. So Katie, our oldest, who's about to turn 11, was born in 2006. So I stopped working full time as an attorney to stay home with her. So she was born January of 2006, and moved, or what was called at the time Greenbrier Mortgage. He started roughly around that time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now your family was supportive of him doing all this as well?
Yeah, definitely. His parents, my parents, they were like, you guys are adults, you have good degrees from a good school, you have a lot of skills. Again, if this doesn't work, it's not like the end all be all.
And any of this ever caused any tension, I guess I should say, between the two of you at home? Or
it's crazy, so much less tension than when he was in the NFL. It was almost harder for me when he was playing football. That was just a harder time, I think. He was gone so much, and we were brand new married, and we were both used to being athletes and being together all the time, and then he was gone, and just, not being a starter, every week you're looking at ESPN and wondering if you're going to see his name across the line, and you got traded or you got sent here. So in a weird way, it was less stressful because it just felt like he was more in control than being on an NFL team. Even if you're having a great season, some other position gets hurt, they got to move people around, and now you're in St. Louis. So.
And your family, were they local, or?
No, my family was still all in New Jersey, where I'm from, and his was all in Virginia, where he's from. And so we kind of had a little bit of we're kind of out here in the South by ourselves, just trying to make it work. And so, I don't remember all that much tension about the job situation at the time.
And did you get to travel back and forth to see your family a lot?
Yeah,
so
a decent amount. Yeah, my parents would come down a lot, especially after we had Katie, and his parents as well. So great support from both sides, on both families.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you have two kids now, though,
yes.
right? You have two. So When did the second one come into place?
It took a while, 2010. So my girls are almost 4.5 years apart. So Josie, our second one, was born in April of 2010.
Yeah. And then now I know you had lost your mom, right?
Yeah, right in between my girls being born in 2008. So everything, it was kind of a crazy year with Casey starting his company, the market tanking. Both of my parents in the end of 2007 were diagnosed with different cancers within a month of each other. Previously both pretty healthy. My mom was in her early 50s, and my dad was in his late 50s. It was just a rough time. You know, I remember flying up to see her for Thanksgiving, and she was already very sick. And Katie, my daughter, was a year old, and I was pregnant again. And my parents live in New Jersey, so I was in Newark Airport and miscarried in the airport on my way home to see both my parents who were very sick. And so it was just like, that was the start of kind of a lot of stress and just strife that, you know, we just hadn't had to deal with before then. So it was tough. And
Yeah.
my mom did pass away in April of 2008. So she was diagnosed in August of 2007 and April of 2008. So it was relatively quick.
So you said you went to go see both of your sick parents, and then on your way home,
On my way there.
miscarried at the airport,
Yeah.
and you had your daughter
Katie,
with you.
yeah, at the time. So it was
Take
just,
me to that moment. I
ugh.
mean, how do you deal with that as a woman?
yeah, it was just a rough time. I mean, I was very close with my mom, and specifically since having my own child, it was just a really good time for us. And she, you know, so she's sick, and we didn't know if she was going to get better or not, but it wasn't looking great. And then my dad was also diagnosed with bladder cancer. And I remember the miscarriage just being like, oh, okay, you know, what else is going to go wrong?
Did you know you were miscarried?
It was very early on in the pregnancy, and you know, yeah, and it was quick, and then it was done. And I remember honestly like not being as distraught as you think you would be over a miscarriage, because I was already so spent over both of my parents being sick and what that was going to look like and what was going to happen with my mom, that, you know, the miscarriage was like, oh, what next kind of thing. But I remember Casey being really devastated as well, and him being under a ton of stress, trying to get this business going. I wasn't working I was working a little bit, but I wasn't working full time as an attorney. And so financial stress a little bit, obviously the emotional stress from what was going on, and then bam, you miscarried too. So it was a rough time for sure.
But somehow you found something inside. Do you think it's because your athletic background, or what gives you that strength?
I don't think it was that, because I think, you know, sports for me were always this like huge joy. So I think, you know, definitely faith in Christ, and just kind of that understanding of like, well, everyone goes through this kind of stuff. You know, it's not, oh, woe is me. You know, my mom is sick. You know, plenty of people have horrible things happen to them. And I would say too, having a really great marriage. Not that it's perfect all the time by any means, but just having, I'm a very emotional, I'm such a like typical stereotype, but emotional person. He's a pretty solid rock in terms of his emotions in check and being a really great strength for me. So definitely leaning on each other. Katie was a great little kid, and that was a big joy in our life. And so kind of trying to celebrate the good and, you know, being in prayer a lot through some of the bad. And then my mom did pass away, so it was a tough transition on a lot of like, why does this happen to us? Just like what I think a lot of people do when bad things happen to them.
And I think you hit it on the head. I think it's exactly what happens. You know, sometimes and not sometimes, I think most of the time, some of our darkest moments become our brightest testimonies. And we may not see it at that point in time, but as time goes on, there's always something good that comes out of it. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
More with Michaela and Michelle Crawford when a Pro-Wife Story returns. A Pro-Wife Story continues with Michaela and Michelle Crawford.
Let's shift gears for a little bit. Let's talk about
Not tree stands.
not tree stands. No, definitely not tree stands. No. Let's talk about the fact that you now have 2 children. The mortgage business is doing well, but you no longer are an athlete at this time. But it was still, that desire was still in you, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, my second one, Josie, was born in 2010, and I was, ever since Katie, the older one, was born, I was always working as doing personal training, teaching all sorts of workout classes, step aerobics, running, sprinting, everything. Like I love that, and that was kind of a a passion of mine that was sort of like playing sports. It was something I could do and stay home with my kids. And so I'd work early mornings and just kind of work around their schedule and once they start preschool and stuff like that. So it was something I really enjoyed and kind of built up a client base, and then kind of got introduced to CrossFit about a year before Josie was born and started.
And for the people watching this, not knowing what CrossFit is, like in a 20-second summary, I mean, I call it just working out until you want to cry.
I think that's actually great. No, yes, I mean CrossFit. The industry CrossFit would say it's functional fitness, right? It's really tough workouts with a barbell, using your body weight, doing functional movements, and that can look different depending on what CrossFit gym you walk into in the country or around the world.
So you decided to open up your own CrossFit gym.
Yes, after a lot of stuff happened, but yeah, I initially opened it up inside of YMCA, partnered with the gym that I was working at as a trainer and as a group exercise instructor, and they were awesome and kind of designed out a whole basketball court for me. After I kind of pitched this to them, and at the time, it's 2009, CrossFit wasn't as big as it is now, it was kind of growing, but I sort of pitched it to them like, hey, lots of parents would love to do this. They have little kids that are going to need the structure of a YMCA.
Would love to do this.
Would love to do it. And at the time,
they
CrossFit,
just love to work out really
hard.
Everybody
and
wants
cry
to vomit
when they exercise
and sweat.
But it was kind of trying to change the mentality
Yeah.
of CrossFit being this military thing that's only done in these like gross, grungy gyms in small pockets of the city to, I really truly believe in this exercise program, for lack of a better word, that it should be open to the masses. And a lot of people, at least for sure in my life at that time, had little kids and were really reliant on gyms that provided childcare and showers and just normal amenities of a gym to make it work. But that didn't mean that they didn't need something that's cool and as effective as CrossFit.
And I mean, you're so involved because you teach on a daily basis, but you also compete, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you compete because I have this, and like I have some of your stats right here.
Oh God.
And that's actually how I reacted because they frighten me. I have to tell you that because it says max pull-ups 55.
Yeah, but I mean, we've been doing it for a long time.
I don't care. I've been working out for a long time, and I got excited when I could do 3 without the rubber band that shoots me over the bar. You know,
Right.
So 55. I mean, you have deadlift max 350.
Mm-hmm. I was a field hockey player, so I was used to being all pulsive off the ground. It was
Back
a good transition
squat,
for me.
280 pounds. I mean, you teeny little. Well, based on those things, I know we have pictures of you competing, and I have to talk about this because
God, I know what you're gonna say.
You already know what I'm going to say. And this is a fair warning for all of you watching. Michelle's abs are not human. I want to say this. They're absolutely not human. And I looked at your abs, and I told you this, on Facebook. I had to double check, if they are real because they are so cut.
I have to thank my mom and dad for that. It's just good genetics. My sister's the exact same way. My brother doesn't even work out. And he's the same. Yeah, no, it's just good genetics.
They all have abs like that?
Oh yeah. Thank you, mom and dad, and thank you God for some good abdominal genetics. Yeah.
I mean, I just can't believe, because I thought it was you working out really hard.
I mean, I think
that makes me feel maybe a little bit better.
I think it's a combination of that, but certain people are just certain things. I don't know.
Yeah, because you hold some, right? I mean, when you went to the CrossFit Games, tell me, because you won the sprint, right?
Yeah, so the CrossFit Games has all different events, and one event was kind of like a sprinting, cutting, very sport specific, very similar to stuff I'd done playing hockey. So I did, it was just a race essentially. So there was all these heats, and so I got to win that event, which was really cool. It was a cool moment competing internationally.
I would say that's a cool moment.
Yeah.
And then you also worked out as a group, right? You guys competed
as
as a
a group. Yeah, so the games have individual events, and then there's also teams. So one year I went and qualified as an individual, and then came home and opened Rising CrossFit, where the gym I own now, and then we got a team together, and our team qualified for the next 2 years and got to compete as a team. So that was really cool too.
Mm-hmm. Do you but are you on a special diet? I'm keep on thinking about your abs. It can't just be genetic. I mean, then how did your parents get the abs in the first place?
That's the thing. My parents don't have them. It's for
it's genetic.
I'm saying My grandma. We tried. Casey and I try to eat pretty well, but I would be lying to say if I didn't eat, pizza and ice cream and stuff during the week. I'd say Monday through Thursday, we eat pretty clean. We try to stay away from processed foods, try to eat lean meats, yada yada yada, what you hear all the time. But I work out hard because I like to eat too. So we eat ice cream and.
Well, I'm caught
like
up
that.
on your abs. I'm sorry. So for me, especially after having 2 kids, and I've had 4. It doesn't matter what I do. I feel like at this point I need to take a break because after looking at all your pictures, I need to, just be happy with what I have. My stretch marks, And we'll be right back with Michelle and her abs.
More with Michaela and Michelle Crawford when a pro-wife story returns. A pro-wife story continues with Michaela and Michelle Crawford.
All right. Before the break, we talked about your abs, and that's also something I don't want to talk anymore about.
I'm good with that.
Because it keeps me want them so badly. But they don't seem humanly possible. But just as much as Casey building this mortgage company that in my opinion doesn't seem humanly possible either, because it is one of the largest, right?
Yeah.
Mortgage company in not just this area, but in the country,
yeah.
right? And fastest
growing, I believe. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a credit to his vision and then also a really great group of individuals that came around him and believed in him and worked really hard in a lot of different areas. It's not just loan officers and processors. They have a whole media department. They have now they have this thing called the Thrive Initiative where they have a full gym in their mortgage company. I mean, I teach classes over there to help, they really believe in loving on and taking care of, everyone that works there. And that has really resulted in a great deal of success and a lot of, pride and camaraderie within the workforce and growth. And it's just been cool to watch that happen, to stand alongside and watch him build that and watch that happen.
It's so amazing to me because I want to make this on-air confession that, as you know, when Casey shared with my husband, Mike, years ago that he wanted to start a mortgage company, my Mike shared with me.
Right.
And I have to be honest, the first thought that I had was, oh,
good luck with that.
good luck. I wish you the best.
Right.
But in my mind, I thought,
which was a reasonable thing to think.
It's hard to start any company,
Yeah.
but a mortgage company, affiliated with the housing crisis that was going on. I thought that was going to be really tough, and it's very ambitious for him to do.
It was ambitious, and it was tough. I mean, he worked his butt off, and there was a lot of months of stress and sacrifice, and I just remember him driving back and forth from here to their ops center, which is up in Virginia Beach, and just, not really sure it was gonna go,
But it's amazing because now when I drive by the new Movement Mortgage headquarters, which I do frequently, I'm like, oh ye of little faith. It's like, I mean, it's just a unique way of, me being taught that no, it's possible. It is possible, and certainly he did it, and certainly you did it with your business, and both of you guys, are, as I want to say, maybe superhumans. I mean, this just doesn't seem, a lot of things that you guys do is the average, I guess,
certainly Casey,
road that people go down to.
You said, you have little faith, and I can take that on myself. I mean, he's a really smart guy. He's obviously a great athlete, but his faith is so incredibly strong. And when he feels called to do something, not to be, weird about it, but when he does, he's very confident in that, and he goes forward, and he knows he's going to encounter obstacles and hurdles. And, a lot of times I've just been like, oh, are you sure? And he just kind of dives in, and to watch him walk through that with all sorts of stuff with the housing crisis and not knowing what he was doing and not, financial and all this stuff, has definitely strengthened my faith.
And you guys give back so much too, because a portion of your proceeds, right, was the company.
Yeah, a pretty significant portion goes into what has been created. It's called the Movement Foundation, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on with that right now. They're opening a charter school fall of 2017. They have a whole foundation that does all sorts of, that provides all sorts of resources for, underprivileged people in the city. They've gone to Africa. They're potentially buying some land out there to help some farmers out. There's just a lot of cool things going on, and a lot of people have, like I said, kind of jumped onto this vision and have run with it as well. And so it's a lot of people working really hard with this understanding of we're not just here as a mortgage company to like line our pockets, but to be this positive influence in the city. And now as they've grown, in the country. So it's been cool to watch for sure, from my perspective.
That's amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. You guys just a unique family all the way around, because I also want to point out that you guys live in this house, but on this street you have like part of your family live, right?
Yeah, my sister lives next door on one side, or 2 houses over on one side, and Casey's sister lives 3 houses down, and they have 3 kids, and my sister has 2, so there's 7 cousins under 10 that all run around and hang out with each other. And my sister and I are very close, and Casey's sister and my sister are the same exact age, and we've all known each other since the younger, Casey and I are the oldest, so the younger sisters have known each other since they're like 16, 17, so it's been, 20 some odd years of friendship, and it's a really cool thing. I mean, sometimes like if you come to our like family holiday, you might be like, oh my God, there's so many of them, they're so loud, but it's cool.
So many of them with those abs.
There's so many abs
around the holidays, and they can eat whatever they want to eat.
Yeah, but it's awesome, and it's really cool that our kids are all the same age and growing up together. So it's been a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's amazing. I mean, I would love to be that close to my family. As you know, my family is in Europe, so that's not going to happen. Now, we have to wrap up, which I hate to, always, because time goes by so fast. But I want to say this. We've established that you guys are superhuman, super entrepreneurs, super friends, a super family. 1 minute. Give me some nuggets of wisdom.
I have to kind of lean on Casey on this one. He is like I remember being in church maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Josie had just been born maybe, and you had to pick a word for the year that was going to be your family's kind of, I don't even know, kind of like your starting point. And we both kind of looked at each other and we said vision. And that was our word that we had to I can't remember if we had to put it on a cross or put it something. And it was just about kind of like, let's get outside of ourselves and not just be like, okay, well, my dream is to open a CrossFit gym and your dream is to do a mortgage company or whatever, and just really always trying to be, because it's not easy, but always trying to be mindful of the impact you're having on the world around you outside of the 4 walls of your house and your kids. And I think it's so easy, especially as a mom of young kids, I know I did, to get so just worried about them and that life being really small. But trying to have this vision outside of what God created you to do, and outside of just your little family in terms of what can we do to make Charlotte better, 28277 better, or whatever. And then having a spouse that keeps you on track with that, and Casey definitely keeps me on track with that, probably better than I keep him. And just trying to walk that path and live that way and be bigger than you.
You've definitely made me better just by being my friend.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You've been watching A Pro-Wife Story, presented by Michaela Scurlock and the Carolina Panthers.